Hey guys, Alias here. I have just a few things to say really quick before we get into the story. I'm going to make it really fast. First off, I opened a Reddit so you guys can submit stories for me to narrate. I am not only into horror, but also sci-fi, action, fantasy, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to read whatever sounds and looks fun and cool and that I can make weird, cool noises for. Second, tonight's author is a returning author, Rbrand. They wrote This Way that I narrated earlier this month. They're also an AI narrator here on YouTube, and they go by the name The Horror Emporium, previously Somber Tales. So, without further ado, we'll get into this. We Joined a Cult as a Joke, Part 1, by Rbrand. I sat in our dark bedroom, the computer screen glaring with a harsh, white light. A banner flashed before my eyes. Seek wisdom by understanding yourself. Chloe, check this out. I called over my shoulder to my girlfriend playing The Sims on her laptop. She glanced up, her brow furrowing in confusion before giving me a bemused look. What the hell are you looking at? She asked. It's some cult, I replied, unable to hide my fascination. I fell down a rabbit hole and found this local place downtown. It's a derivative of Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn bullshit. I pointed at the Google Street View image of the dilapidated storefront in an ethnic shopping center. She smirked, a hint of amusement in her eyes. I never pegged you for the religious type. I never pegged you as the religious type. Check this out, I continued, clicking through the site. They have some photos. We spent some time going through the albums, celebrating various solstices. Many were taken in an odd room with black and white checkered floors, adorned with Egyptian pseudo-artifacts, bathed in a glow of red and purple lights that transformed the scene into a surreal dreamscape. The people certainly had an alternative vibe. Tattoos were plentiful, but other than that, they looked like they came from all different walks of life. Many of them looked like they had their fair share of bullying in high school, no shortage of that. But most of them looked relatively normal aside from the occasional piercing. One photograph in particular caught my eye. A woman, sitting in a bright red room, sat on an altar, holding a staff in her right hand, wearing nothing. A man was kneeled before her, his arms tied behind him, rope anchored to the ceiling. They were sliding a knife down his back, a small trickle of blood dripping to the floor. Damn, Chloe started. She's butt-ass naked. You want to go? I asked. They're having a get-together tonight. You know what? Fuck it. Why not? It's not like we're doing anything. She replied. Good. I smiled, standing up, because I already ordered us an Uber. She sighed before opening a drawer and pulling out a small pipe. I'll go, but I'm not going sober. It was a cold, shitty Seattle winter night. We got dropped off in the parking lot and spent a few minutes looking for the storefront. We finally found it next to a dog groomer and a faux restaurant with some pun for the name that I can't seem to remember. We entered the shop, which consisted of two narrow aisles separated by wooden shelves, barely big enough for me to fit down. We spent some time looking at various items, my attention diverting to a vial of elk blood. I remember wondering if they were even allowed to sell this without some type of medical certification they definitely didn't have, while Chloe shuffled through a bowl of mix and match crystals. Can I help you? I heard a woman say from the back as she emerged from behind a beaded curtain. She was a short, overweight woman, wearing what I could only describe as a sports bra and a hula skirt. Hi, I stuttered. I'm George. This is Chloe. We're here for the winter solstice celebration? Oh, goody, newcomers, she said with an out-of-place, overjoyed expression as she clapped her hands. Chloe and I laughed nervously. Oh, goody, newcomers. The door is in the back, but you can come through here just this time, she said with a smile, arms holding the beaded curtain open. We walked through the dark hallway, somehow more cramped than the shop, into a rather large room. A gaggle of people were huddled in the back, which Chloe and I quietly shuffled into. A bearded man paraded around the room, white robes and a red headdress cascading into a cloak, knuckles adorned with several large rings gripping a spear held vertically in front of him. Behind him, another bald man, white robes and yellow cloak followed behind. White sleeves crossed over his chest. I glanced at Chloe's bloodshot eyes, THC clearly flowing through her system. I gave her a knowing look, as if to say, having fun yet? She returned a slow smile. Without warning, the entire crowd clapped their hands together over their head as a woman in blue robes walked past, waving a censer leaking white smoke. We awkwardly followed to match the group. The blue curtains on the back wall opened to reveal an older Asian woman sitting perched on the altar I saw in the photos. Again, completely naked. Before you ask, no, she wasn't attractive. It's never the ones you hope it is. The red-robed man kneeled down and softly kissed her knees. I glanced back at Chloe. Her smile was so big I was afraid she was going to laugh at any moment. I pinched her on the side and whispered, "Do not fucking laugh." Honestly, I think I just made it worse. Her face turned beet red and she bit her cheeks. The ritual went on for another half hour or so. They must have said, "Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law," at least a dozen times. We were getting kind of bored and were ready to leave before the woman in the blue robes wandered in with a caged chicken. No fucking way, I thought. Surely enough, the man in the yellow robes held the chicken high in the air before slitting its throat and draining the blood into a large metallic basin. The man winced as the chicken flailed violently, scratching up his arms before eventually succumbing to blood loss. One by one, each person there stood between a white and black pillar, saying love and intention in Greek before eating a piece of something, taking a sip of the blood, and saying, "There is no part of me that is not of the gods." Chloe and I hung back and politely declined when our turn came. Once all was said and done, they busted out some alcohol and started celebrating. We slipped out into the street, bursting out laughing. After we finally collected ourselves, Chloe whipped out her phone and showed me that she took a dozen pictures of the ritual. We laughed our asses off the entire way home. First thing she did was open her laptop and post the pictures on Twitter, tagging the lodge with the caption, "Me and the boys chillin' right now." We returned to the usual rhythm of our lives. I went to work, conducting meetings and answering emails, while Chloe went back to her classes. A few days later, Chloe checked her Twitter and saw that she had gained a few thousand likes. The whole ordeal became a running joke between us. I would eat fruit snacks and sip on my soda, saying, "There is no part of me that is not of the gods." A few weeks later, we'd mostly forgotten about it, except for the occasional recounting as a funny story to regale our friends. One night, while Chloe and I were spending our evening the usual way with me on the computer and her on the laptop, I felt her furiously tap my shoulder while staring wide-eyed at the window. Confused, I took my headphones off and walked over, pulling back the curtain to reveal 6 people standing in black robes and animal masks watching us from the hillside. "What do we do? Should I call the cops?" Chloe whimpered.
No, they're just a bunch of LARPers. They're not gonna do shit. They're just trying to scare us,"
I said angrily as I closed the blinds and hopped back to my computer. Chloe sat there for a few minutes in a tense pose with her arms folded together. She went to double-check the door was locked before we continued our night as normal. The next day, I got a text from Chloe frantically telling me to come home immediately. When I arrived, there was a squad car parked outside our building. I ran up the stairs to see 2 officers standing by Chloe in the doorway. I nearly shouted asking what was going on. They led me inside to show me a massive black symbol drawn on our wall, a 6-pointed star made from one continuous line. We finished our police report, and they told us they'd get back to us if they find anything. I've been robbed enough to know that means they're going to forget about this before they've even gotten back to their squad car. Furious, I stormed over to the shop and banged on the window. The hula skirt woman came over and cracked the door open just enough for me to see one of her eyes. "What the fuck do you think your little posse's doing?" I screamed at her. "Breaking into my apartment like that? You're fucking psychos!" "I have no idea what you're talking about," she said with a sly grin. "Oh? No?" I said, pointing a finger in her face. "If anyone tries any shit like that again, I'm going to burn your goddamn shop to the ground. Do you hear me?" She looked at the ground, clearly nervous. I've never blown up on a stranger like this, but I could tell my threats were working. After a moment of silence, I stormed off again, back towards home. "You meddle with forces you don't understand," she called out from the shop. I picked up a glass bottle from the sidewalk and chucked it, smashing it against her shop window, forcing her to close the door and disappear into the shadows. I'm not particularly proud of how I behaved in this moment, but unless you've had someone break into your home and draw shit on the walls, hold on to your judgment. The next few days passed without much of a peep from them. Chloe and I began to relax, convincing ourselves that the cult had been scared off. Life seemed to be returning to normal, and the unsettling incident became just another story.